When most people think of the largest predator that ever walked the earth, they think of T-Rex, and it is easy to understand why. Tyrannosaurus rex is the most recognizable predatory dinosaur in history, one of the most studied animals ever discovered, and the benchmark that every other large predator gets compared against. When a new large theropod is found, the first question paleontologists get asked is always the same: is it bigger than T-Rex? But here is the problem with that question. The answer depends almost entirely on what you mean by biggest: longest, heaviest, most powerful bite, most effective predator overall. Each of those measurements gives you a different winner, and the real story of the largest predators that ever walked this planet is far more complicated and far more interesting than a single name on a podium. So who actually takes the title, and what does the competition between these animals tell us about how evolution produces giants in the first place? Before we can answer who was biggest, we need to understand why the question is so difficult to answer in the first place. Almost every size estimate for large dinosaurs comes from incomplete fossil material. A full complete skeleton of any large theropod is extraordinarily rare. Most size estimates are based on partial skeletons, sometimes just a handful of bones, scaled up using comparison ratios from more complete specimens of related species. That means every size figure you will hear for the animals in this video carries a meaningful margin of uncertainty, and different research teams using different scaling methods often arrive at significantly different numbers from the same bones. This matters because the difference in estimated length or mass between the contenders for the largest predator title is often within the margin of uncertainty itself. An animal estimated at 13 meters with a possible range of 12 to 14 meters, and an animal estimated at 12.5 meters with a possible range of 11.5 to 13.5 meters are not meaningfully distinguishable from the fossil record alone, even if the headline numbers suggest one is clearly larger. With that established, here is what the evidence actually shows. Tyrannosaurus rex lived in western North America during the final 3 million years of the Cretaceous, roughly 68 to 66 million years ago, making it one of the last non-avian dinosaurs to exist before the Chicxulub impact ended the age of dinosaurs. The best preserved and most completely studied T-Rex specimens give a length of roughly 12 to 13 meters and a mass of somewhere between 8 and 9 tons for the largest known individuals. One of the most complete specimens ever found, a skeleton known as Sue, housed at the Field Museum in Chicago, measures just over 12.3 meters in length and is estimated to have weighed approximately 8.4 tons in life. What made T-Rex the most studied and most feared predator in the debate is not primarily its length. It is the specific combination of features that made it extraordinarily effective as a killing machine. The skull of T-Rex was built like a structural engineering masterpiece, with thick, fused bones reinforced specifically to absorb and transmit enormous compressive forces. Bite force estimates based on computer modeling of jaw muscle mass and skull geometry place T-Rex at over 35,000 newtons at the rear teeth, the strongest bite force of any known terrestrial animal, living or extinct. That force was not designed for slicing through flesh like a blade. It was designed for crushing bone, which T-Rex routinely did, as confirmed by fossilized bones of other dinosaurs showing distinctive T-Rex bite marks, where the bone was punctured, crushed, and in many cases consumed entirely for the marrow inside. Its senses matched its killing ability. The olfactory bulbs of T-Rex were proportionally enormous, suggesting a sense of smell capable of detecting prey or carcasses across very long distances. Forward-facing eyes gave it a wide binocular vision zone, providing the depth perception a predator needs to judge distance accurately before committing to an attack. The combination of acute smell, strong forward vision, and bone-crushing jaw power made T-Rex arguably the most complete and effective apex predator ever to exist on land, even if it was not the longest or the heaviest. But longest and heaviest belong to other animals entirely. In South America, roughly 97 to 93 million years ago, a predator was hunting across what is now Argentina and Chile that exceeded T-Rex in length by a meaningful margin. Giganotosaurus carolinii was discovered in 1993 in the Neuquén province of Argentina, and its name means giant southern lizard. The most complete specimen, estimated from a skull, hip bones, and scattered skeletal elements, suggests a length of somewhere between 12 and 13 meters, with some estimates reaching as high as 13.7 meters for the largest possible individual based on scaling for the most complete bones recovered. That puts the upper range of Giganotosaurus clearly beyond the upper range of T-Rex in length, though the overlap in estimates means the question of which was definitively longer is not fully settled. What is considerably clearer is that Giganotosaurus and T-Rex were built very differently for very different purposes. Giganotosaurus had a longer, narrower skull than T-Rex, with blade-like, laterally compressed teeth rather than the thick, rounded, bone-crushing teeth of a Tyrannosaurid. This tooth shape is designed for slicing through flesh rather than crushing bone, the same basic design seen in many large shark species, where thin, serrated edges cut efficiently through soft tissue with minimal force. The jaw muscles of Giganotosaurus, while producing a powerful bite, were not arranged to generate the compressive force of T-Rex, and bite force estimates for Giganotosaurus are considerably lower as a result. The reason Giganotosaurus did not need bone-crushing power comes down to what it was hunting. The ecosystem it lived in was dominated by massive titanosaur sauropods, long-necked plant-eaters that reached lengths of 30 meters and masses of 70 tons or more. Against prey of that size, the killing strategy was almost certainly not crushing bone, but rather inflicting large, deep wounds to major blood vessels and organs, bleeding and incapacitating an animal too large to be overpowered directly. A long, slicing bite to the neck or flank of a titanosaur, delivered and withdrawn quickly, would cause catastrophic blood loss in an animal that could not physically turn fast enough to defend itself effectively. Giganotosaurus was almost certainly a more specialized predator than T-Rex, built for one specific hunting strategy against one specific type of prey, rather than the versatile apex predator T-Rex represented. Whether that makes it bigger or simply differently proportioned depends on which measurement you prioritize. Then there is Spinosaurus, which complicates the entire comparison in a fundamental way. By length, Spinosaurus is the largest predatory dinosaur ever discovered, with estimates based on the most recent skeletal material placing it at 14 to 15 meters, clearly exceeding both T-Rex and Giganotosaurus in that single measurement. By that metric alone, the length title belongs to Spinosaurus, and it is not particularly close. But including Spinosaurus in a comparison of land predators requires an important caveat, because the most recent evidence suggests Spinosaurus was not primarily a land predator at all. As covered in an earlier video, dense bone structure consistent with buoyancy control, a paddle-shaped tail built for aquatic propulsion, high nostril placement allowing submerged breathing, and isotope analysis pointing to a largely aquatic diet all suggest Spinosaurus spent the majority of its life in or near water, hunting large fish rather than pursuing terrestrial prey. It was almost certainly capable of moving on land, but its body plan was not optimized for land-based pursuit predation in the way that T-Rex and Giganotosaurus clearly were. Calling Spinosaurus the largest land predator is therefore a stretch. It was the longest predatory dinosaur. Whether it was a land predator in any meaningful sense is a separate question that the evidence increasingly answers with a no. Beyond the three most famous contenders, the competition gets considerably more crowded, and the animals that fill it are far less well known than they deserve to be. Carcharodontosaurus saharicus, whose name means shark-toothed lizard from the Sahara, was discovered in North Africa and lived roughly 99 to 94 million years ago, overlapping in time with Giganotosaurus on the opposite side of the Atlantic. Size estimates based on skull material and comparative scaling suggest the length of 12 to 13.5 meters, and a mass broadly comparable to T-Rex, with the same slicing tooth design seen in Giganotosaurus, rather than the bone-crushing dentition of Tyrannosaurids. What makes Carcharodontosaurus particularly interesting is that it lived alongside Spinosaurus in the same North African ecosystem, the same ecosystem where we know both species coexisted for millions of years without driving each other to extinction, almost certainly because Spinosaurus was hunting in rivers while Carcharodontosaurus hunted on land. Two of the largest predatory dinosaurs ever discovered, sharing one ecosystem by occupying completely different ecological roles within it. Tyrannotitan chabutensis, another South American giant from roughly 120 million years ago, is estimated at 12 to 13 meters based on partial skeletal material, making it comparable to the largest T-Rex specimens. Mapusaurus rosier, also from Argentina and roughly contemporaneous with Giganotosaurus, is known from a bone bed containing multiple individuals of varying sizes, which some researchers interpret as evidence of group hunting behavior, since the largest titanosaur sauropods would have been extremely difficult for a single predator to bring down, even at the enormous sizes these animals reached. The pattern that emerges from looking at all of these animals together is striking. Giant apex predators appear to converge on a similar maximum size range, regardless of which continent they lived on or which lineage they descended from. Somewhere between 12 and 14 meters in length and 6 to 9 tons in mass appears to be a ceiling that multiple completely independent predatory lineages approached but rarely exceeded, suggesting that ceiling is not a coincidence but a physical and ecological limit. What causes that limit, and why does it appear in predators across completely different continents and time periods? The answer comes down to the same biomechanical constraints that cap the size of large animals across the entire history of life on land. Bone strength scales with cross-sectional area, but body mass scales with volume. As an animal gets larger, its mass increases faster than the strength of its skeleton can keep up with, meaning there is a point at which bones become so heavily loaded that locomotion requires an enormous proportion of the animal's total energy budget just to stay structurally intact. For predators specifically, there is an additional constraint that herbivores do not face. A predator must be fast enough, agile enough, and powerful enough to kill prey that is actively trying to escape or fight back. At very large body sizes, the metabolic cost of maintaining the muscle mass needed for fast movement becomes extremely high, while the mechanical efficiency of fast movement decreases. There is a size beyond which a predator is simply too large to be an effective pursuer of prey, regardless of how powerful its bite is. The 12 to 14 meter range appears to be approximately where that trade-off tips against further size increase for land-based pursuit predators. Every lineage that independently evolved giant predators, North American Tyrannosaurids, South American Carcharodontosaurus, North African Carcharodontosaurus, seems to have approached this same ceiling from different starting points, hitting the same physical wall regardless of evolutionary history. So who actually takes the title? By length alone, Spinosaurus is the answer at 14 to 15 meters, but its semi-aquatic lifestyle means it was not primarily a land predator. Among confirmed land predators, Giganotosaurus and Carcharodontosaurus likely edge out T-Rex in raw length, though the margin is within the uncertainty of the fossil record and is genuinely not settled. By mass, T-Rex and the largest South American giants are broadly comparable, with T-Rex perhaps holding a slight advantage in body density given its more robust overall build. By bite force and overall predatory capability on land, T-Rex is not close to being matched by anything else in this list. The most honest answer is that there is no single winner, because biggest means different things depending on what you measure. What the evidence does show clearly is that multiple independent evolutionary lineages, separated by oceans and tens of millions of years, kept arriving at roughly the same maximum size for a land predator, which tells us something far more interesting than a simple ranking ever could. Evolution has physical limits, and the largest predators that ever walked this planet all found that limit at roughly the same place, from completely different directions. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you liked the video.